Hi, this is Brian Kim. I'm going to share with you case number 226 in the best way to do cataract surgery series. And again, the purpose of that title is not to say this is the best way, but to encourage you to think about every case as an opportunity to get better and really constantly refining and honing your technique so that you can provide the very best cataract surgery for your patient. And so in this case, I'm going to illustrate how coating the cornea with OVD will allow you to have good visualization throughout the case, and you don't have to have BSS sprayed on the cornea throughout the entire case. And I know a lot of colleagues around the country and around the world who do this technique, and I haven't been doing it routinely, and I decided to show this in this case. So using the corneal marker, which will help me to center and size the rhexis, and then using the cotton tip to control the eye, I'm turning the eye towards the left of the screen so I can get a nice flat approach with my paracentesis blade, first on the right side and then the left side. And by making a flat approach, this creates a nice corneal shelf, which will allow me to achieve a self-sealing incision. This is intracameral epinephrine, and then some dispersive viscoelastic to coat the corneal endothelium and flatten the anterior capsule. So you can see this patient is the left eye, and I'm using the cannula to control the eye with the Orlock technique. So this is a triplanar corneal incision. I make a vertical groove, place the blade into the deep part of the groove, tunnel through the cornea, and then when I'm ready to enter, I turn the eye towards me with the cannula, and then I go in. And again, I'm using that same cannula to control the eye for the rhexis as well. And these are the microrhexis forceps. So again, I'm using a two-handed technique to keep the eye nice and centered. Puncture the center of the capsule with those sharp-tip forceps, pull down towards me, grabbing the right side of the tear, and then going around circumferentially. I have excellent control, and with these low-profile forceps, I really don't have OVD egress. It's really not an issue anymore with this technique and with these forceps. Remember, a long time ago, I used to talk about you have to keep pulling in order to get a well-centered incised rhexis. Again, those were with the standard Utrata style rhexis forceps, but again, that's because there's a lot more OVD egress because of gaping of the wound. You don't have as much gaping with this instrument, and therefore I don't really have issues with radialization forces. Now, after I do the rhexis, I go ahead and push the dispersive viscoelastic on the cornea. You really don't have to use a lot, and it looks really weird right now, but then you're going to put some BSS on the surface, and that just kind of helps bring all that viscoelastic together in one beautiful layer. And this is the capsulorhexis hydrodissection technique. I place a cannula under the rhexis edge contra-incisionally, get to the capsule equator, turn the tip down, and then I'm right in the perfect position for that wave to go posterior. It's very unusual for the wave to go anterior and reflux. I never have failure to achieve a wave with this technique. So you get a beautiful wave, as you see, lift the lens up to decompress the bag, and then the lens begins to spin. Again, such an elegant way to do hydrodissection, and this is my preferred way to do that. Now, the only difference is now you really can't irrigate the eye anymore. There's no reason to, so I don't irrigate the eye at this point because I have all that nice layer of OVD. I just lift the incision with a chopper, go in with irrigation off to minimize Descemet's trauma, and then my tech doesn't have to worry about watering the eye throughout the entire case. It's really nice for my technician. Remove the surface epinuchal material, and you see I'm pronating my hand, and I'm going to lead off and I slide the chopper tip under the rhexis edge. As I get into the capsulorhexis, I'm going to turn my hand and supinate so that the chopper is pointed down. And by doing it that way, the elbow of the chopper is going to be at the same horizontal plane as the anterior lens surface. And once I get to that point, I'm turning the figurative vertically subincisionally, stabbing the lens from the other side. So again, I'm flanking the lens with the instruments. The chopper is contra-incisionally, and the figurative is subincisionally. So I'm fracturing, I'm turning that figurative, I'm pushing down into that soft epinuchal material, I'm flanking the endonucleus, and now because both instruments are down at the same horizontal plane of the lens, I'm able to bring the instruments together and it crushes it very efficiently. Again, only under irrigation alone. Placing the chopper under the right heminucleus, turning that chopper vertically again. Again, the elbow is parallel to the anterior lens surface. The chopper is deep. The phaco tip is deep. Therefore, the right heminucleus is then flanked by the instruments. I pull centrally toward the phaco tip with the chopper, and I'm able to crush the lens against the phaco tip, and that is the cross-chop maneuver. I'm going to go ahead and place that chopper around that first quadrant and then crush the lens with another cross-chop maneuver, and then I'm going to start emulsifying each fragment, bringing it up with some vacuum, and then crushing the lens between the instruments, and then emulsifying the lens pieces. Loosening up that second quadrant with the chopper, separating it from the rest of the lens, getting underneath the lens material with getting the chopper around the lens material, loosen it up, and then using some vacuum to grab that quadrant, and then emulsifying the lens piece. Turning the second heminucleus in front of me, placing the chopper under the rhexis edge, and then again pulling the chopper centrally toward the phaco tip and crushing the lens against the phaco tip with another cross-chop maneuver. Using the same cross-chop maneuver to crush the third quadrant, and then using mechanical forces to crush the lens pieces, and then emulsifying the lens pieces. And then the same maneuver, the cross-chop maneuver around that fourth quadrant, cutting the lens in half, and then using some vacuum to position the lens piece on the tip, and then crushing it with the chopper, and then emulsifying the lens pieces. And then doing the same thing with that last fragment. You can see by doing it this way, you're able to minimize ultrasonic energy use. Go ahead and grab the epinucleus with the vacuum. Keeping that chopper deep to protect the posterior capsule, and that's it. So I take the chopper out, push BSS in, take the phaco tip out, and I go in with the INA handpiece. There's quite a bit of cortex still. Go ahead and start subincisionally, peeling the cortex from anterior to posterior. Again, the polymer tip coaxial IA is my preferred technique. Why? Because the polymer tip is a game changer. And even though you can do bimanual, which will help you with the subincisional stuff, I can't get away from that polymer tip. You need that polymer tip. It is just a game changer. So I switch to polish mode. I can polish very efficiently in that low flow setting, polishing under the rhexis edge of the lens epithelial cells. I can even polish the posterior capsule confidently, knowing that I won't damage the posterior capsule. Of course, the limitation of coaxial is I can't access that subincisional space as well. So I use the BSS cannula to pulse into the subincisional capsule fornix. And so this is my way of getting around that limitation. Again, every decision is a pro and a con. And so I would rather have the polymer tip with coaxial than bimanual IA. And then I just pulse into the subincisional space. I'm able to get anything that's stuck there. And then I'm able to use the sweep to really ensure that I don't have anything stuck in the subincisional space, because that sweep is able to get into that space very easily. So I'm polishing on the left side first with the sweeper. And I'm able to get under some of that subincisional area, and then switching sides and doing the same thing on the other side. And with the sweeper coming in from the left side, I have, again, pretty good access to that subincisional space, just in case I have some lens material that's stuck there. Go ahead and inject the single piece acrylic lens going into the bag. Now, again, as a reminder, my technician has not had to irrigate the eye at all with this technique. And I have a beautifully clear cornea throughout the entire case. So again, I know a lot of colleagues have talked about coating the cornea with viscoelastic. And, the problem is, dispersive viscoelastic comes at a premium. It's a expensive product, and we don't want to use it indiscriminately. But I did talk to my staff and asked them, how much dispersive viscoelastic do I use? And they said, Dr. Kim, you don't really use a whole lot. So I thought, okay, with a routine case, why not go ahead and coat the cornea? But the key is you have to flush it first. If you don't and you have a lot of oily material, then the oily material will get mixed up with the OVD and it will not be a good view. So you want to flush the cornea first, and plus it makes the cornea wet. And when you flush it, you get rid of the debris, you make it wet, and then you quickly put that dispersive viscoelastic, and you'll get a very nice uniform viscoelastic coating. You just have to wet it with some BSS. And as you saw throughout this case, beautifully illustrated, again, the technician did not have to wet the eye. I have a beautiful appearance to the cornea throughout the entire case. I had no trouble visualizing throughout the surgery. I was able to perform double chop, cross chop, efficient lens disassembly, using the least amount of ultrasonic energy to disassemble this about 2+ dense lens. Go ahead and hydrate the incisions at the end of the case here. You can see now the view is a little bit wonky because some of the viscoelastic has kind of come off by the end of this case here. Hydrating the incisions and checking my pressure. Again, you can see that big wad of viscoelastic on the corneal surface. I think it's okay to leave that viscoelastic at the end. It really doesn't hurt the patient and you're pretty much done. And really it's kind of acting like a thick ointment. So, if patient's probably going to have some dry eye issues anyways after surgery, and keeping that thick amount of ointment at the end of the case is probably not a bad thing to help the corneal epithelium heal at the end of surgery. So I hope this was helpful to you, and I thank you for your attention.